Hey, this is Jeff Layton, your Washington, D.C. real estate expert. In today's video, we'll be going in depth in one of the hottest neighborhoods in all of Washington, D.C., the H Street corridor. So, stay tuned. H Street is a rapidly growing part of Northeast DC with a happening main street that has restaurants, nightlife, theater, and even a streetcar along the main corridor. There's also beautiful tree-lined streets along the outside of the corridor as well. This area has changed dramatically since the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s when there was just blight everywhere and it really wasn't considered much of a destination by any stretch of the imagination. There's still, one of the good things about that though, since it's still going through some development and transition, is that there's still good deals to be had compared to some of its counterparts like U Street or Adams Morgan or some of the more developed neighborhoods in DC. H Street still has some deals out there for developers as well as for traditional home buyers. H Street corridor is another one of these DC neighborhoods that's more or less a general area. It's not strictly bounded by, one block or another. But according to the Washington Post, which obviously must be true, the H Street corridor is anchored by F Street Northeast to the south, Florida Ave to the north, Maryland Ave to the southeast, and 2nd Street Northeast to the west, to give you a good idea. Some of the surrounding neighborhoods to the H Street corridor include Capitol Hill, Noma, and Trinidad. H Street is another neighborhood in DC that has experienced a dramatic change over the last 100 or so years. So the neighborhood was first developed in 1849 and actually had streetcars that would run up and down the main corridor on H Street up until about 1950 when it was replaced by buses. Buses or streetcars aside, the neighborhood was extremely popular for dining and shopping up until the riots of Martin Luther King. So in 1968, when the assassination and then ensuing riots happened, H Street was one of the hardest hit neighborhoods in DC. And the neighborhood really, for about 30 years, from 1968 up until about the early 2000s, was just full of blight. There was vacant buildings. It was really considered a crime-ridden area, almost a dangerous type of area in Washington, D.C. In 2002, the DC Office of Public Planning began a lot of community-based initiatives, which eventually led to the planning and development of the streetcar. And just the planning part of the streetcar and the fact that there was a streetcar coming, that led to just millions of dollars from investors, both commercial as well as residential, who began pouring a lot more investment into the corridor. Some of the famous restaurants that attract people from all over DC include restaurants and bars. Rock and Roll Hotel is a local favorite, as well as the H Street Country Club, which is a must-see along the H Street corridor. So really the reintroduction of the streetcar and just the continuous development over the last couple decades has led to H Street being considered one of the hottest neighborhoods in all of DC, and it still has a lot of room to grow. So with all the development going on, H Street has a very active community. I mean, there's nightlife, there's dining, there's shopping, there's an H Street Farmers Market, there's the Atlas Theater, and actually one of the most popular things to do along the H Street corridor is the H Street Festival. And so that takes place once a year and draws literally thousands of people from all across the district, from DC, Maryland, Virginia, it's a very popular event. And all this activity and all this buzz, and H Street, it's been considered a hot, up-and-coming neighborhood for a while, and still, to this day, there's a lot of, projects going on, and it's still considered, in the transition, but also really on its way to being one of the top neighborhoods in DC. It's attracted some of the top real estate investors in all of Washington, DC, including Jim Abdo, J.R. Lynch, and they've literally poured tens of millions of dollars into this neighborhood, building new, with new residential projects, and as they've been doing that, there's been new commercial projects going on and lots of development happening. So It's a neighborhood that is still up and coming, but it's basically following the same footprint as a lot of these other top neighborhoods in DC, like U Street or Adams Morgan, where the blight has been replaced with very more upscale commercial and residential options, and with all the the infrastructure and being the close proximity to the U.S. Capitol as well as Union Station and transportation options. H Street is going to continue to see a lot of growth in the near future. So as far as transportation goes with H Street, it's a great community because it's really in the center of a lot of things. Number one, it's very pedestrian friendly, and you can walk to destinations like Eastern Market, Barracks Row, and many other places. In addition to that, there's zip cars, there's bus lines, there's obviously a streetcar that goes down the middle of the entire corridor. And it's also walking distance to 2 metro stops along the Red Line. They're located just outside the community, but not too far. So one is Union Station and the other is New York Avenue. The housing options along 8th Street are mostly some of these historic row homes that are actually situated right off the main corridor on these very quaint tree-lined streets. Very, very beautiful stuff. Many which have been actually restored to some of their original charm. There's also boutique condo projects as well as big luxury apartment buildings that line the corridor. So as far as the housing stock, it's obviously not as developed as neighborhoods like U Street, Adams Morgan, some of these other neighborhoods that we've mentioned, but H Street is still very highly desirable and also can be somewhat pricey. Many residents, though, have bought that buy in H Street buy because of the potential appreciation in this neighborhood. Because if you drive down it today, you can see tons of different buildings and things like that being constructed, and there's a lot of activity. And if you ask residents in DC about H Street, many of them might go there on the weekend or check it out during the day to go shopping, dining, do a yoga class maybe. So there's a lot of great stuff going on there. To wrap this up, H Street is an area that has experienced dramatic transformation over the last 10, 20 years and will continue to go through this revival and development until it reaches its potential over the next couple decades. So it's definitely a neighborhood that has a lot of potential, and in many respects is already there with the streetcar and all the commercial, dining, residential options, close proximity to Capitol Hill, and also transportation options. That's what makes H Street so special. It has it all, and it still has room to grow. So thanks again for watching this video, and if you like this video and you wanted to see some more neighborhoods and different topics that I cover, feel free to subscribe to my channel in the link below, or check out some of the other videos on my channel. And if you have any comments, just drop them in the comment section below, or feel free to email or call me if you have any questions about your real estate needs. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye.